Hey, welcome to the Diabetes Remission Roadmap podcast with the two renegade pharmacists, Brian Bisher and Cory Jenks. You are listening to this because you are a person with type 2 diabetes who is committed and driven to breaking free from this diagnosis and creating a real, meaningful change in your health and life. In these episodes, we're here to help you ditch the scripts with doses of unconventional wisdom on topics such as fitness, nutrition, medication, mindset, and more. So without any further delay, let's dive right in.
Welcome back to another episode of the Diabetes Remission Roadmap podcast. And Brian, I had to admit something right off the top here. I used to wet the bed as a kid. Boom, it's out there. The world knows.
Wow, Cory, I have to admit, I did too, I think. Just not as much as you did, probably.
No, my dad has used to wet the bed, and he said he passed down the bedwetting to me, but he did not pass down his 440 speed to me, which actually I'm more upset about that. Like I could pee the bed, that's fine, but I wasn't fast, so I didn't get that trade-off. So thanks a lot, Dad.
Yeah, Cory, how did you break that habit of wetting the bed?
I grew out of it. Like I just grew up. My body grew to a point where most people who are older don't have that same problem. And it's something as a parent now with three young kids. And I don't want to like make them feel embarrassed someday listening to this. So maybe they pee the bed every night and I have to do laundry all the time, or maybe they don't. I don't know. Not going to share that. But their brains and their bodies just aren't working together yet. But at some point, when they're like 23, they're not going to pee the bed unless they have a crazy night at the frat house. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, yeah.
uh,
I
we
have to
don't feel
admit, good, good.
we don't feel bad about having peed the bed because it's a part of being a kid and we grow out of it, right?
Yeah. And I have to admit, when you told me that it was genetic, I really had to look that up because I just did not believe you. But then it turns out you were kind of right. So
Yeah.
it's hard
And
to admit when you're wrong, and I was wrong. So
thank you. That is always makes me feel better. So I've outgrown peeing the bed. My parents are cleaning out their house, they're moving, and there's a bunch of clothes that were mine as a kid. And you know what, Brian? They don't fit anymore because they were my clothes as a kid. Should I feel bad that I'm now 3 feet taller than I was when I was a kid and my clothes don't fit like they used
I
to?
want to say no.
We should not feel bad
No.
because at some point, something that really isn't a huge issue that could be embarrassing at the time or just was what we had at the time, well, we grow out of it. And what's this podcast about? Oh, it's about diabetes. So, what does this have to do with our blood sugar and diabetes remission? Well, the key idea that we're trying to get at here is that people will resist change, whether it's changing their habits around their blood sugar, their diet, their exercise. And we'd like to think it's because it's really hard. But a lot of times, when we resist change, it's because it's an admission that what we were doing was the wrong thing. And it can make us feel shame, it can hurt our ego, and honestly, it can make us dig in instead of adapting. If you've ever tried to get anyone to change anything, their ideas about something, maybe over Thanksgiving dinner with family when it comes to politics or the world events,
Mm-mm.
and it's hard. It's called cognitive dissonance, this where your ideas and worldview are shattered, and it hurts. It really hurts, Brian. And that's
Yeah.
why it's so hard.
I have to agree with you on this. And I know I've heard this saying before, maybe I've shared it. Like if you could take a horse to water, but if you stick its head in, it's gonna be mad as heck. Right? Like just can't force people to do anything, even if they think this is a better thing for them, like in terms of habit change. It definitely stems from like self-identity. So that's where I
Mhm.
think, especially when our habits are strongly tied to our identity, that when we decide maybe we want to change them or they're not serving us anymore, it does. It hurts our ego. It's admitting we're wrong, and like that there needs to be something we do differently if we're
Yeah.
going to
Well,
change.
and that change, like we say, it feel like we're admitting failure, ignorance? It can feel like we admitted that we wasted all this effort and time, and we've taken care of countless people who worked really hard and were given terrible advice. And to think that you were doing all this work for nothing, it hurts. And Brian and I know a little bit about that with what we do. Sometimes we spend a lot of time writing an article, writing an email, and nobody reads it. And it feels like wasted effort and it sucks. So what we hear is and the resistance that comes up is people will say, I know what works for me. Well, if you did, you wouldn't have an A1C of 10. I've tried everything. That's one of the biggest ones I've heard, Brian, is I've tried everything. And then I'll ask like two simple questions. have you lifted weights ever? Well, no. So you haven't tried everything. Well, I've tried exercise, but have you tried lifting weights? And oh man, the the breaking of the brain is it's not enjoyable to watch. It's sad. Like I feel bad for people, but I when I see it in like a family member when it comes to some sort of current event and I break their brain, then I don't mind it so much.
Yeah.
Or the one that really hurts the most is this is just how I am. Well, that's it.
Mm.
And so change is not an admission that you were wrong. I think it's recognition that the situation has changed. You've got new information, you've got new skills, and and this is, this is where we see a struggling patient, struggling client. Brian hates the word patient. Oh my gosh, struggling human being. They'll defend their habits. They will explain what they're doing instead of being willing to be curious and experiment, and they'll treat change like a moral failure. And Brian, have we had to change in our practice as pharmacists?
Yeah, absolutely. I had to change a lot and I had to learn a lot with how I was helping people for sure. So,
Yeah. So imagine for us, you go to school for 6 years. Did you do a residency? I can't remember.
no, no, I
You didn't do
decided
a
it wasn't worth it.
residency. You don't have a board certification anymore. Wow, what a loser, Brian. Well, I did a residency and I have two board certifications. Bam. And so doing all of that work and then seeing my patients get sicker and sicker. And then I had to learn. I had to get curious. I had to change. And then I realized, oh my gosh, I've been telling people all this stuff that's wasted effort on their part, wasted effort on my part, getting up early, going to work, spending hours in the clinic. For what? Well, I could have doubled down and just say, you people are not doing the paradigm hard enough. Or I could say, well, maybe the paradigm I'm teaching isn't very useful. And so the struggling person, like I said, we explained those, but the thriving one gets curious instead of defensive. And that's what happened about 10 years ago. I got curious. I willing to say what I'm doing isn't working anymore, or it never worked. And then we'll adjust without judging ourselves. And Brian, the strongest people that we know aren't always the most disciplined. They're just not attached to being right.
It's a good point. I want to know, I'm curious, what were some of those things that you found yourself telling people that you had to then reflect back and say, this is wrong. Like this is not going to help them.
Oh, you know what? I would say diabetes is just progressive. We just need more glipizide. You're doing the best you can, but we need more insulin. You need to just move more. You must be overeating. You need to lower your fat intake. That was one. I never said the word protein. I don't think ever to a patient. I never said the word lift a weight. It was just get your exercise, get your 150 minutes of activity a week. Well, so in, instead of realizing, oh, insulin resistance and hyperinsulinemia is the root cause, and I'm making it worse by giving you all these medicines. So those are sort of the money lines I remember. The slow titration of glipizide off a cliff of someone's life, off a life. Just
Going up to
it's
that max dose.
it offends me to think that I did that.
Yeah.
But also as a kid, I used to bleach my hair and listen to Creed. Like things happen. We're not proud of them, but you you
Yeah.
learn more and you change.
I
So
never had to bleach my hair. Obviously, I'm naturally blonde.
no, I was like Eminem. Like I
Now you
bleached it.
were, oh
Yeah.
wow. I did pierce my ears though. That was
What?
my, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I
Wow.
had double studs.
You
Not
had
studs.
double
Not double.
studs?
Not.
You
I
had a
had
stud in
a
each ear?
diamond in one ear. I had So I started with the left ear or whatever ear is the correct ear. And then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go both sides. So then I
Okay.
pierced the other ear. Yeah, this is an
How
admission
old
about me.
how
How
old
old
were
was
you?
I? Phew, I think I like how old do you have to be to do that by yourself? 18, and then I kind of rocked that look through early college years, and then I think I got in pharmacy school, and I'm like, yeah, this is just
Wow.
not gonna be good
I mean,
anymore. So
if you have pierced ears out there and you enjoy them, this is not a judgment of you. I just know Brian as Brian, non pierced ears guy. So this is, but there's no
yeah,
shame. But I mean, it's funny to look back at pictures, I'm sure.
yeah, it
So,
is funny to look back at
but
pictures, but I think this comes down to like identity. I was trying to do something that was outside of my identity. And looking back now, I'm not ashamed of that decision. It just, I learned from it. I got curious, like, why did I do that? I was trying to fit in. I was trying to be different. I was trying to find myself. Um, yeah, Corey, you've brought up a lot of good points. I want to like bring this back to, I think, topic we've covered before is like you've mentioned some of them already, but like what are some of the the things that are the people who reverse type 2 diabetes, they do.
Mhm.
They get curious, right? That's first and foremost. They're okay with admitting that they're doing something wrong. And the people that stay stuck on medications, they're the ones that are, I think, more hard-headed. And they're like, you know what? This is just me. This is who I am. I'm a sandwich person. I'm not going to stop eating sandwiches, whether it, spikes my blood sugar up a ton or not. I don't really care. That's just who I am. Like, what are some of these then traits, characteristics that people can take from listening to this episode and start to reflect on to say, hey, am I someone who's set up to put this in remission, or am I kind of, do I need some help?
Yeah, I think letting go of the shame that comes along with it too. I think that when we hear shame will turn this feedback into threats of your identity, shame will turn any sort of adjustment into a humiliation. And when you get curious, I would say just get neutral about the whole situation. Instead of saying, I was wrong, I was terrible, this is right, just say, okay, clean slate. I want to know what's going to work. And I want to experiment until it does work. And so as you start going through this, you can say, if something doesn't work, instead of saying, I failed, you can say, well, maybe this used to work, but it doesn't anymore. Or I shouldn't have known better. I should know better. We all should have known better. Okay. Instead of say, oh, I have new information. If I knew then what I knew now, I would have done things different, but I didn't. And I'm here now. What can I do? All right. And then if you feel like you're stuck in this pattern, you can say, maybe I need to change the question around of say, instead of saying, what do I need to keep doing more of? Well, what do I need to do less of? What do I need to change?
If you're listening to this and thinking, this is exactly what I need, but I'll deal with it at my next doctor's appointment, I want to lovingly call out something important. Waiting 6 months for someone to glance at your labs isn't a plan, it's a gamble. Your blood sugar doesn't pause until your next visit, your habits don't magically change on their own, and you don't need another rushed conversation where you walk out with more questions than answers. If you want clarity, real personal clarity on what's driving your numbers and how to turn them around, grab a blood sugar clarity call with us. It's free, it's personalized, and it gives you a plan you can act on right away, long before your next appointment rolls around. Just head to the show notes and tap the link to book your call. Don't wait for someone else to set the pace for your health. Take the next step while you've got the momentum.
And humans, we love with homeostasis, which means things stay the same, they don't change. Our biological body systems, we like the same, having being the same temperature. We like the same patterns and routines. And so it becomes a situation of the devil you know versus the devil you don't. And we accept this suboptimal standard for health, feeling crummy, feeling low energy, having high blood sugars, taking lots of medicines, and we just sort of lie to ourselves and say, well, this is normal. The doctor says this is okay, versus asking, why the heck are we? I mean, 50 years ago, we didn't do this. Why is it okay now? Um, and I think it does require being honest with yourself that we need to we need to make a change. And I was he's saying I was wrong. I think you said that earlier this episode. I joked about like it's really fun to hear you say something like that. But yeah, we I was wrong. And we're human beings. We're not robots. We are all going to be wrong about stuff. We are all going to get things wrong. And so I think maybe I would say it comes with age and wisdom. As I've gotten older, I've seen enough to realize, oh, these same patterns repeat in people and myself. But I see 70, 80, 90, 90, at 90, you're pretty set in stone. At 80, you kind of won the game. But 50, 60, 65-year-olds, 40-year-olds that are just unwilling to admit defeat that they were wrong. And it's a huge ego problem.
Yeah. I got the feeling though that people listening here, they are open-minded, Corey.
You're
I
listening
mean,
to this,
they
yeah.
are, yeah, they're open-minded. They're ready to change. So like just help me. Well, one thing I want to give them, the listener, you, the person listening, however you say that, is I think Corey made a good point here that ask questions. And questions, I heard this from Jim Quick. I'll give him the credit. Questions are the answer, right? So yeah, questions are the answer. So that's where you literally get answers by asking different good questions. And one of my favorite questions to start, one of my favorite ways to start a question is how might I? Because it's very open-ended. And a lot of what you're talking about, Corey, it sounds like very growth mindset. Like, hey, this hasn't happened yet.
Mm.
Mistakes are not representative of me as a bad person. I'm not a failure. I just, didn't have the right experience. It's all about growth mindset and learning. And feeling like your growth is not limited. You can learn from your experiences, you can change. And so that's why I think the person listening to this is they're very open-minded to change and they want to put diabetes in remission. So I'm gonna help, yeah, just start asking different questions. So what would be your top how might I questions?
How might I? Okay.
How might I?
How might I change my relationships in my life to achieve better blood sugar? Because I have seen many people sabotaged by their spouses, their friends. How might I change my relationships with people? How might I change my environment at home? Maybe it means putting a kettlebell by your desk. Maybe it means never bringing in chips into the house. How might I fit exercise into my crazy schedule? Instead of saying, I can't, or I need a 2 hour block, it ain't happening. Brian and I both have little kids. We would love to spend 2 hours at the gym. I miss those days. How might I? How might I talk to my doctor about remission? How might I find a simpler path? How might I find other people on this same path as me so that I can have the team on my side to get the support? How might I? How might you? And I love that because it's such a curious question.
Yeah, yeah. I learned that from the dad edge.
Mm,
So yeah. Well, you got anything else, Corey, for people listening, like this topic here?
Please let us know which was the more shocking admission, the bedwetting or the ear piercing. I think you really stole my thunder on this, Brian. So, but that was fun. That's kind of the
Maybe I'll
fun of it.
post a picture of that on Instagram sometime for good old flashback purposes.
That would be great. I'll put up a picture of my bleach blonde hair and then my frosted tips. The key was you bleached your hair right at the end of school. You get one haircut midsummer and then one haircut right before school, and you got the perfect in sync frosted tips look for the first part of school. It was it was awesome. I miss those days. It's probably why my hair is
Please,
falling out.
please do post a picture of that. That would be incredible. I really want to see that.
Well, well,
Uh,
great. So
yeah.
to bring it home, all right, ignoring a mattress soaked in pee does not make it dry, and ignoring a plan that is not working for your blood sugar does not make you healthier. So remember that change is not shameful. Staying stuck because you're afraid to admit something isn't working, that's going to be the real cost. And we have to get over the fact that what we were doing, the identity we attached to it might have been wrong. And the sooner you can do that, get curious, ask how might I, the quicker you're going to get on the road to remission.
Love it, Corey. Thanks for putting this such a good episode topic together. This was really interesting.
Yeah, well, it's hard to not be interesting when you talk about frosted tips, bedwetting, and ear piercing
Yeah.
days from high school. So until the next time, send us an email. We love collecting those questions for FAQ episodes. We're going to be working on another one of those. Share this with a friend. Our podcast is growing. We love it, Brian. It is just so much fun watching the numbers go up because that means the number of people we're having an impact on is growing, and we need more people listening so that we can stem the tide of type 2 diabetes because it's possible. How might you share this with a friend? How might you introduce this to someone who needs to hear it? And until next time, Brian, we'll make sure keep everything out of our ears and we'll keep our beds dry. Sound good?
All right. Sounds good, man.
If this episode gave you clarity or hope, share it with one friend who's been stuck in the diabetes trap. That's how this mission grows. One person, one family, one story at a time. And if you haven't yet, leaving a quick review helps more people find the show and realize they're not stuck with meds forever. It takes less than a minute and it means the world to us. Thanks for being here and thanks for being part of this movement toward freedom. Thanks for listening to the Diabetes Remission Roadmap. The ideas discussed here are for general informational purposes only and do not constitute medical or nutritional advice. We are pharmacists, but we're not your personal healthcare providers. Always consult your own physician or qualified clinician before changing medications, exercise routines, or nutrition plans. Results vary, and what works for one person may not work for another.